doctor, the very respected career path in Ghana, even worldwide, I think.
So when you realized that you wanted to become an artist, did you tell your family? And what did they say?
I think that the contention was when I also had to still, decide between pursuing fine arts or architecture. And both of them are really like my interest since childhood. I'm really also interested in architecture. I used to make a lot of building models with all of these vaulting boxes and stuff that we find around people, and I'll design buildings. Yeah, these are some of the things that people saw that made them convince my family to allow me to do art, pursue art. So yeah, the idea was that at the essence maybe I do architecture. From modernism, we had to move on. And between modernism and contemporary, there are a lot of agreements also. You get me, but I think that other parts of the world, and also we don't necessarily have to be in sync. Because the world is not also well in America or Europe, for example, because a lot also happened in other parts of the world. That's where it's really like documented, like in Japan, and in other countries in Asia, and so on and so forth. So I think that the art in Ghana also progressed in a different way. It also progressed in a different way, but we can put the different generations, into different movies.
That's interesting.
The whole trilogy is called Where the Eagles Are, Where Carcasses Gather.
And you said it was a biblical reference.
Yes.
Why biblical reference? Why is that important to you?
I am glad you said that, because that's the bit of the goal, because I was talking about some of the elements in the piece. And I talked about the sea, for instance. And interestingly, people consider the sea to be a very calming body or entity. People go there for therapy, go to the beach, we hang out at the beach to relax, to calm down. I do that a lot. But also, the sea in itself is the body that has witnessed a lot of death. And this whole trilogy has a lot to do with death. The sea has caused a lot of death, and it has on the sea that a lot of dead bodies, people's bones and stuff, from shipwreck, and even the raft of Medusa, they were at sea, they were on a raft literally, and a lot of them died. I think there were over 100 people, about only 15 survived. So a lot of them died, and they are probably still on that place.
Clothes. And the eagles descending on the clothes, and why the clothes?
Yeah, I like to think that clothes are the closest things we have to our bodies. All of us here seated, we are all wearing some kind of clothes. It's something that almost everybody can relate to. It's one of the basic elements of life. So I like to use the clothes as metaphors for the human body. And I like to use the cycle of clothes as a metaphor for the cycle of human life, the human body. So the clothes, the states that those images were taken are kind of the same when you go to maybe like the cemetery where human bodies are buried. That's those sites to me are more like the final grave sites for the clothes, which I see to be human bodies. I like to, very interesting idea for me. So like you were saying, I like to explore a lot of ironies. I like my work to not be just like one thing, I explore a lot of different parts in my practice, and sometimes those parts are, sometimes they meet, sometimes they are also, opposite parts. The vulture in this trilogy is a symbol of death or mischief, like a bad omen. I've been exploring death on my work for a long while now, like about a number of years. And at this point in my work, I am exploring different symbols of death across different global cultures. Archival material that are collected from the family. The whole idea is to try to give form to presence, as a way of navigating loss and upset. So my work is about death, but it's also about revival. And I think that the chapel as a material embodies all of those rooted in archives, and the chapel medium is one of the most archival mediums that you can find around. These cavemen during Stone Age era, they used to draw the chapel for sympathetic magic and so on. So it's one of the longest standing mediums around. So I think I also explore things like passage of time, so it makes sense to use such an archival medium like chapel. I also explore transients, and the chapel is a very impermanent transients, like passage of time, transients, and all of that. And the chapel itself is a very impermanent material. You can put it, but you can also easily remove it. You can easily, clean it. So that impermanence also has a lot of relation with the idea of transience, for example.